And I am going to officially call to order this regular meeting of the Truckee Donner Public Utility District, Wednesday, May 18th at 6 o'clock. Shauna, could we get a roll call, please?
Thank you. Director Bender?
Here.
Director Aguirre?
Yes. Here.
I'm sorry, my apologies, Vice President. Director Laliotis?
Here.
Director Harris?
Here.
And President Finn?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here.
And as you are willing and able, please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Perhaps Director Bender would like to lead us.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brian, do we have any changes to the agenda this evening?
There are no, there are no changes this evening.
Thank you. Item number 5, public comment. This is time set aside for the public to comment on any item that is not on the agenda this evening. Any agendized matter will be commented on the time that that item is being considered. Do we have any public comment this evening that is not present, that would be online?
No, Madam President.
Thank you very much. Which brings us to a moment for director updates. So this is the time for directors to comment on any item that is within the purview of the district that is not on the agenda. And I'm going to start at the far end and work my way towards me. Director Harris.
Well, yes, of course I have a little bit of an update. Thank you very much. I have been knee-deep in sports over the past few weeks, and I wanted to just congratulate all the Truckee High School athletes who are going to be going to the state championships this week. And we have them going for baseball, and the track team will be in Northern Nevada, and we have swimming that's going to Southern Nevada. They're going down to Las Vegas. And those are the teams I know about, so congratulations to our athletes.
Thank you, Director Harris. I agree. Yay. Director Laliotis.
Just a quick update, just to say thank you to all the staff and crew here at the PUD. I know it's been an interesting April and May with lots of wind and construction season kicking off, so everyone's getting busy and appreciate all the hard work out there, so thank you.
Thank you, Director Laliotis. Director Bender.
No updates from me.
Right on. Director Aguirre.
I'm okay, I'm just trying to catch up tonight.
Perfect.
Last time, so.
Thank you, Director Aguirre. I also am playing a little bit of catch-up. I just want to thank my fellow directors who were here last meeting. I missed it. I watched the meeting and caught up. Thank you so much for your insightful and helpful questions, and I feel ready to tackle our items tonight. I also want to say that I attended a course down in Stanford. That's why I missed my week, and it was really quite amazing, and I'm hoping to share some of the things I learned, particularly with General Manager Wright, and talk about the sorts of insights that they gave us. Stanford's quite a place, so I'm very thankful to have attended and appreciated that opportunity. And I think that's it for me. So now we're going to turn it over to General Manager Wright for his statement.
This evening, I don't have any GM updates. I'm going to leave that time available for, we have some pretty robust presentations this evening, a couple of workshops, so I'll save that time for them, and no updates this evening.
Very good, thank you. You gave a very thorough one last meeting, so. Consent calendar, do we have any changes to the consent calendar? Did anybody have anything they wanted to pull, or? No? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any public comment on the consent calendar?
No, Madam President.
Okay, in which case, do we have a motion on the consent calendar?
I'll move approval of consent calendar.
Thank you, Director Laliotis. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Aguirre. Shauna, could we get a roll call vote, please?
Thank you, Director Aguirre.
Yes.
Director Laliotis.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Vice President Bender.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Which brings us to the first of our action items this evening. So where the action is, item number 10, new debt issuance. And staff is going to recommend that we adopt Resolution 2022-12, proceeding with debt issuance. This item relates to the district embarking on electric utility certificates of participation. And B, adopt Resolution 2022-13, proceeding with debt issuance. This item relates to the district embarking on water utility certificates of participation. And I am sure someone is going to be presenting something.
So we have our Chief Financial Officer, Mike Salmon, will be navigating these presentations from a remote location in the abundance of caution with the potential cold or flu symptoms. We're having him report from remote location, and our safety is one of our core values. And so Mike can join us from his remote reporting location.
From the bunker.
All right. Can everyone hear me okay?
Loud and
Yes.
clear.
Okay, great. I will share my screen and get this show started. Sorry I can't be there in person. Screen is up. Okay, so in the budget 2022 budget, there is planned new debt issuances of 6 million and close to 15 million electric and water respectively. We held a workshop on this topic on May 4th of 2022. First and foremost, it's important to understand that the district has formed a team to help with this debt issuance. They are here today, either in person or remotely via Zoom. And if I could quickly have each one introduce themselves, that would be great. We'll start with in the room. I believe we have Rick Brandis. Is Rick not in the room? Did I lose audio?
Mike
He is here.
is here, as is Mr. Shaw.
And we introduced ourselves, Mike.
Okay, I couldn't hear that. Okay. Okay, we'll go with David. You're up next.
Members of the board, this is David Kasnoka from Stradling, Yoka, Carlson, and Roth. I've been the district's bond and disclosure counsel since the mid-1990s, and I'm happy to be here tonight to answer any questions about the proposed financings.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anna?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Anna Sarabian. I am with Fieldman, Roloff and Associates, the district's municipal advisor. Our firm has served as the district's financial advisor for many years. And I'm happy to be here tonight as well, supporting the team and available to respond to any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sarabian.
Thank you. And we also have General Counsel Steve Gross, who needs no introduction, helping as well. So first, I'm going to hit the tips of the waves of the presentation from May 4th. Not all the board members participated in that workshop, and please stop me at any time for any questions or clarifications, and we can defer to the group for expertise to answer any questions. And then, of course, we'll have opportunity to ask questions at the end of the presentation. So this new debt issuance is part of the supporting our capital improvement plans for both electric and water. They both have 10-year capital improvement plans that are aggressive to address the aging infrastructure of our facilities, both electric and water. I covered some of the ratios in last workshop with respect to ways to assess the age of the plant, and it's clearly aging, both electric and water, and it's important for all utilities to reinvest in their infrastructure every day. The infrastructure depreciates in value, other than land. These two new debt issuances are part of the approved budget and our financial master plan. They're aligned with our strategic plan and our rate approvals for both electric and water. Electric will have no long-term debt after the final POB payment on June 30th, 2022. The long-term debt for water has decreased substantially in the last few years. Back in 2010, it was 39 million in balance and is currently at 11 million in balance. The issuance of this new debt achieves many objectives. As I mentioned, it's consistent with the budget and the financial master plans. It bolsters our capital funds to expedite capital improvements. Long-term debt issuance is a method of leveraging funds for long-term capital improvements, spreading that cost over the useful life of the projects. With these debt issuances, the district will have 36 months from closing to expend 85% plus of the debt proceeds, and we forecast that the district will achieve that objective, that requirement. This is the black bar on the right is the debt service for water if there is no new debt issuance, and then the blue bar above that is future debt service, including this new debt issuance planned. And on the left side is past year's debt service. And you can see that even with this new debt issuance, the water debt service will still be below what it had been in previous years. Another way of saying that is that even with the debt issuance, the water utility will not be highly leveraged. The credit rating is important. We don't know what our credit rating will be. We have a meeting set up for early next week to review with S&P our financials and our planned debt issuances to start the process of the debt rating. The majority of utilities are in the AA minus and A plus rating range. I also on the 4th talked about inflation. It is quite, as we all know, quite heavy in the news right now, but the 1-year CPI is around 8.5. The 5-year, when you take CPI and look at it over 5 years, it's actually 3.4, and the further back you go, it drops down to even over 30 years, about 2.4. So we are in certainly a high inflation rate right now, and the feds are trying to address that. But overall, it's in the longer term you look at, the lower inflation is in general. Not that helps us too much, but I thought it was informational. Based on that inflation, we have upped the sizings roughly 8% from what was in the budget 2022 expectations. So electric, we've moved up to closer to 6.5 million in par issuance, and water around the 15.9 million range. This chart shows municipal bond yields for the last 30 years for 30-year municipal bonds over time. And you can see that in recent past, it was quite low, and it has in the last few months escalated up, started to escalate back up. And that is forecasted to continue based on current economic and Fed commentary of late. Why is that important? Issuing debt now versus a year from now exposes us a bit of exposes us to an interest rate risk if it went up. There's also a risk if it went down, but that's certainly not in anyone's forecasting right now. Issuing debt now compared to 50 basis points higher a year from now equates to about a $200,000 favorable net present value. And if interest rates go up 100 basis points or 1%, it's close to $1 million by locking in an interest rate now for 30 years as opposed to waiting a year at a higher interest rate. Kind of a bit buried in the weeds of the financial documents presented tonight is the a lot of legal documents and a lot of detail. There is the cost of issuance that needs to be understood. The budget had about $285,000 for water, 1.9%, and we're currently targeting around that same level for the current issuance level. And then electric is a bit off compared to budget. It's higher. It's higher for a couple reasons, but primarily I did not factor in budget the estimated costs for bond insurance instead of a reserve, which is the recommended route. There's pros and cons to having a reserve versus having bond insurance and not having funds tied up in a reserve account. And so I was slightly off in that respect. The timeline, we did a workshop on May 4th, May 18th today is the resolutions to start the process, and ratings next week, and debt pricing in early June with a closing in late June. Fiscal impact. I mentioned leveraging before. Very common in utilities. We will still be well above the standard COP bond debt coverage ratio of 1.25. We've reviewed Title III, Chapter 3.7 and Section 3.0301 debt goals with respect to district code and compliance with debt issuances, and we will remain in compliance with those, which is very important. And the fiscal impact also includes allowing us to execute on our capital improvement plans as planned in budget and the financial master plan. So with that, I will turn it back over to President Fenn for questions for myself and or our team.
Thank you so much, Mike. First, I'm going to ask if there's any public comment. I don't see any in front of me, but if we had any via the internets, thank you. In which case, I will open it up to director questions or comments. Does anybody have a question or comment at this point for Mr. Salmon? And I'll start with this end. Start with Director Aguirre.
Okay, maybe I lost something in the process here, but if we adopt these resolutions tonight in the course of this, of these bonds, we can save $1 million.
Well, if interest rates continue to escalate,
That'll fluctuate.
Now would be more have a net present value more favorable than waiting a year and paying a higher interest rate for 30 years.
So
Okay, yeah,
we hope,
yeah, well, it'll fluctuate, I'm sure.
yeah.
It's not a known thing because we don't know what interest rates will be in a year, but certainly the Fed commentary, the Federal Reserve commentary is that at a minimum quarterly type increases are going to continue.
Well, I'm glad that's what we're going for.
I don't know if Rick or Anna want to chime in here a little bit. Feel free to.
Good evening. I'm Rick Brandis. Is this on?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's not on, try now.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Rick Brandis with Oppenheimer. Anna Sarabian, the advisor, could also chime in too. Regarding rate hikes, the most recent commentary is the Fed will raise the Fed funds rate another 50 basis points at the June meeting and another 50 at the meeting after that, to be followed by, the rate hikes after that will be determined after that. But another 100 basis points by midsummer.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Okay, now is the moment.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I'm done.
Director Bender, do you have any questions or comments?
Time is of the essence, so I'm all for it.
Thank you very much. Director Laliotis.
Yeah, thanks for the team for putting this together. I agree. This is something that I think the timing is right to move forward with. Do have a couple questions. When do we start paying back the debt service? Assuming the schedule holds.
Well, interest starts immediately, and I believe the first principal payment was it November? November of 2022.
Correct, Mike, November of '22,
Great.
November 15th.
And then can you describe how, I recall you indicated that you had plugged this financing into the budget. How does this fit in with our current rate, Prop 218 rate plan? And do we feel we have sufficient funds based on the current rates and the future 218 rates that'll be implemented to, keep up with the debt service that we're potentially approving tonight?
Thank you, Director Laliotis. Good question, and the short answer is yes. The budget was conservative in both term and interest rate. The debt service amounts are right at the budgeted amounts for debt service. And so I do not anticipate a material variance between budgeted debt service versus actual debt service for these new issues.
And remind me where we're at on our 218 schedule. I think did we do a 5-year for water? I know this is just water only, but.
Water was through 2025, approved through 2025. The rate study went out further. And electric was a 2-year rate approval for 2022 and 2023.
If I might add, Director Laliotis, I think to the broader point of your question, the maintenance of debt service was included in several of our rate models. So including the various 5-year rate models for water, I'm talking about, and our long-term 10-year financial master plan. Those were all considered in terms of maintaining that debt service to help ease the burden of additional rate increases to pay for our long-term capital improvement plan, but also rebuild some of those reserves on the calendar or the schedule that we all had kind of reviewed and modeled.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. Just trying to,
Thank you,
there's
Brian.
a lot of parts and moving pieces to this whole thing, so. Great. No, I appreciate that. That's the only questions I have.
Thank you, Director Laliotis. I appreciate that question as well. We were pretty aggressive in our rates for the next couple of years, so I'm glad we're good.
Yeah,
It's not more.
That was going to be my question, is that, there was a significant rate increase for water and I know one for electric to build reserves up. How does that fit into feeding into paying off for some of these projects? Like, do we have to borrow the full amount in order, we've got money now kind of put to the side for capital projects, up to, I think, $7.5 to $8 million, but then we're also still borrowing a bunch of additional funds for it. It seems like we're stocking up, and then we're still going to borrow on top of it. That's true.
Well, both the rate study and the budget, financial master plan and near-term budget 2022 and 2023 factored the new debt issuance amounts from a debt service and as a source of funds for capital improvements. So as I mentioned in the beginning, things are in alignment with these debt issuances. As far as in general terms, electric does have the appropriate level of per district code, excuse me, operating reserve, and it has substantial, materially more in capital reserves than the targeted amount, but that's due to the delay of the remodel of the headquarters building, as well as other projects. So that money in the financial master plan gets drawn down relatively quickly. And then on the water side, the operating reserve is at the level that we've targeted level, that our goal, if you will, but the capital reserve is not at all where it needs to be. And by issuing this debt, it allows the water rates to build up the capital reserve as projects move along.
Okay, you also mentioned at the last meeting a situation where we have 3 years to spend this money that we are going to be getting. And I know I expressed concern about whether or not we are able to get materials in order to kind of spend this money. The cost of materials are going up. And is this something that we're at critical need, that these projects have to be done, or is it just part of just kind of a wish list of what we have that we budgeted for, that we have in there? Like, do we have to do this? Like the electric, it's a brand new building. Can we postpone the brand new building? Just like I just heard that you guys have postponed the remodel of this office. So is it something that has to happen today?
Ryan, you want to?
Sure. I was pausing to give you, I know there's a little bit of a delay there. So there's a couple of layers in the answer there. Our current remodel efforts haven't been postponed. We're going through the process. There's a pretty extensive permitting process and design review. So we're still moving forward with those. In terms of the proposed facility off-site, the district's needs continue to grow. The community's needs continue to grow, and our equipment and staffing needs continue to grow. And so there's a couple different approaches to the long-term investment in construction of that as we wait and kind of manage as we are. But we're having challenges with maintaining integrity of some of our fleet and equipment, and the pipeline replacement projects still need to continue to happen because our capital investment compared to depreciation are out of balance right now, and particularly on the water side. And so we have to make a decision to continue to invest in the resiliency and reliability of our system, taking into consideration the current economic factors and some of the anomalies in supply chain are significant. But we still need to continue to maintain that infrastructure replacement on a schedule or a timeline that's relatively in alignment with our long-term capital replacement plan. If we, over the past several decades, the district's approach has been to maintain low rates and kind of replace things on an as-needed basis, but we're approaching, based on our current evaluations, that balance of infrastructure replacement versus depreciation or degradation is getting out of balance there. So we want to make sure we catch up to that. The offsite facilities staff will come back to the board with, here relatively soon, with a proposed plan for long-term construction as well as our phase one for immediate needs. And it really comes down to indoor infrastructure or indoor facilities to preserve our ever increasingly expensive infrastructure. We're advanced fleets, our emergency response equipment, all of this stuff is currently stored outdoors and, suffers from that. And so we have kind of to balance a couple of issues there in terms of maintenance of operations.
Okay.
Thank you, Brian. I would ask David if you could speak to that subject as well, in particular, the potential of, other projects being utilized with these funds.
Thanks, Mike. So remember, board members, each of these certificates of participation are called tax-exempt certificates of participation. And what that means is that for the purchasers of this debt, they can exclude from their federal income tax the interest that they earn on that investment because the district is electing to comply with applicable federal income tax rules that govern the sale of tax-exempt bonds. And because the federal policy of the federal government subsidizing the borrowing cost of local government is an important element of issuing tax-exempt debt, the federal government has regulations regarding the expenditure of those bond funds for local municipal purposes that advance the public good. And so they've enacted spend-down requirements associated with the proceeds of a tax-exempt bond to effectuate that policy. In order to issue tax-exempt bonds, the district has to reasonably expect to spend 85% of the bond funds within 3 years. During that time, the district will monitor its pace of expenditure, and if, as it approaches the third anniversary, projects that had been originally expected to be funded may be delayed, may not be consummated, priorities may change. The district, under the legal documents, can substitute any other electric project or water project for those that are currently anticipated to be funded from these COPs and seek to meet the spend down rule. But the test for today is reasonably expect to spend. So if the district does not end up spending 85% at the end of 3 years, and if the district is never audited by the Internal Revenue Service, there's no adverse consequences to having been delayed in the expenditure of these bond funds. The expectation should be that the district would certainly spend the money within 5 years, but Mike has satisfied me that the list of capital improvements for both electric and water that need to be funded over the next few years support the district's reasonable expectations of being able to satisfy the spend down test. And that's what we're relying upon in giving a legal opinion that the interest on both of these series of COPs is exempt from federal income tax.
Thank you, David.
Which brings me to another question is, are we buying all the materials right now at the height of the market? Or does that not, is that, it is what it is, like we need it now type of thing?
And I would just say, we don't know that it's the height of the market, sadly.
Yeah, it's hard to know if it's at the height of the market or if it's going to continue to go up or come down. Some projects cost more than others, depending on the year you execute on them. I don't have a crystal ball there. We're not purchasing a lot of, as materials today because we haven't issued the bonds yet, but that's certainly forthcoming shortly. The COPs.
And these are pretty large projects. Do we have the staff to be able to manage such a large and aggressive project list?
Mike, I'll answer that. Yes. So one of the kind of the paradigm shifts for the district, and we've discussed this during the review of the CIP for both water and electric and the rate studies, was the paradigm shift for the district to include more engineering consulting services to carry some of this load. A lot of the work that we're discussing this evening or that's included in the CIP is contracted construction work or contracted consulting engineering work, water pipeline replacement projects, substation replacement or upgrades. All of those are projects that will be managed from internally, but completed and executed with the aid of outside contractors.
Okay, does our budget reflect less employees then that will be here and more consultants? Because I thought we just added like 5 new positions to the budget, and if we're going to have consultants kind of take over for the employees who we don't have available to do the work, just wondering if that balance has, the budget has decreased the number of FTEs in order to account for the independent consultants that are going to be doing this work.
And, I mean, we can go back through and do a complete review of the budget over the next couple of years, but the balance of internal staff and construction work with our capital improvement plan was, when we reviewed it in detail, and it's a balance of both. Some of the new additional employees that the district has added over the last year have been administrative and facilities maintenance and management positions that have experienced, we haven't had the level of detail or effort to keep some of these items up in maintenance respect. In terms of outside projects and management of construction, we have a very talented and, capable and qualified engineering team to manage these projects.
Thank you.
Brian, are we still kind of in that area where we're ordering materials and we can't get them in? They're not sending them to us?
We've definitely seen, it's not that we can't get materials, we're seeing extended delivery times. In the past where, for example, an item might have taken 8 to 10 weeks, we're seeing several months, up to 6 months on certain items. And so that's part of the planning process.
That's what I mean. That's part of the whole ball of wax here is getting the materials in after, when we need them.
Yeah, up until this point, materials acquisition hasn't been, explicitly a problem. It's been the delivery times themselves. So it's just become more incumbent upon us as an organization to prepare in advance for those extended delivery times, to include those in our timelines for construction.
Okay.
I've got
Okay.
another question. I'm
Director
sorry.
Harris.
And is my mic on? I think it is. The amount of the debt is, around $20 million, I think, is what we're looking at. Is it possible to decrease that amount to, say, 10 million and kind of see where it takes from there? Or is it that you guys want the 20 million and that's what's being proposed here?
Anything's possible, but I would not recommend that. The rates that we established, the financial master plan, the budget, all are at this level of debt issuance, including the rates that we're charging our customers. Anticipated these debt issuances at this level of amount. So I don't, I understand your question. I don't know if anyone else wants to add commentary to it, but my perspective would not be to recommend a lower amount. If anything, I would increase it.
Yeah, I would follow up and to remind the board that this level of debt issuance was included in both the rate studies, the rate approval process, and the 10-year financial master plan review. If there was to be a lower debt service issuance, we'd have to come back to the board with some kind of midterm revisions to both the budget and our long-term financial master plan. I think it's important to note that this isn't, the debt issuance isn't in reaction to, specific or economic hardship of the district, the proposal in front of you is to issue debt in timeliness with the current economy, rates, and kind of the projections in the future. This debt issuance was always planned and included in both the electric and water rate approvals and budget approvals.
Does that answer your question, Director Harris? Okay. Yeah, this is really part of a larger ongoing conversation that we've been having for, years. This is how businesses grow and reinvest in themselves and their community. $20 million does sound like a lot of money. This is a 30-year debt issuance at a district that has a $35 million annual budget. So, that's what Mike does for us. He puts it all in perspective, and fits all of the pieces together. And we have established that rates right now are in flux, generally trending upwards. So this is a moment to take advantage of, and sometimes you can't. We have planned for this. What I get anxious about are the events that we haven't planned for, and that's what our reserves are really for. I don't want to tap into our reserves when we know we're planning on. That's what debt is for. It's to help us reinvest in our capital projects, so we don't have to drain reserves when something catastrophic, God forbid, happens. That's what those reserves are for, is to help us on that rainy day. Let's see. Larger conversation, I covered that. Tax exempt. Take advantage of the feds, always. And I feel fairly confident that we can spend this money in 3 years. And if, people are lacking ideas, I can help with that. Happy to help spend money. But I think that my concerns and questions have been asked and answered by my fellow board members. One question I do have, if interest rates go back down to next to nothing like we enjoyed for many years, is there an opportunity to refinance the debt?
This is Anna Srabian. Yes, the bonds will be refinanceable. Typically, they're issued with a 10-year option to be called or refunded, and so down the road there will be an opportunity to refinance for savings if the market is conducive of doing so.
That was my hope. Thank you. Okay, that's my last comment, question. We all good? Okay. I'm willing to entertain a motion if anybody's willing to make one.
I'll move to adopt Resolution 2022-12, authorizing the execution and delivery of electric revenue certificates of participation, and B, adopt Resolution 2022-13, authorizing the execution and delivery of water revenue certificates of participation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call vote, please, Shauna?
Thank you, Director Aguirre,
Yes.
Director Laliotis,
Yes.
Director Harris,
Yes.
Vice President Bender,
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yay.
There you go, Michael.
We took action.
Great.
Thank you.
We will, thank you for that, Board. And while I have the team assembled, we do have quite similar, different but similar resolutions for the Finance Corp. And if there were similar questions or any other questions related to those, now would be great to ask those questions, or they can wait till the Finance Corp. At the Board's pleasure.
You're on.
Yes, please, Council Gross.
So, thank you. If there are questions about that, about the resolutions in action for the Finance Corp, we should discuss those during the Finance Corp meeting. We have options for that. As currently planned, we were going to complete this meeting and then call to order the meeting of the Finance Corporation. You have an alternative if you have questions for the consultants and you'd like to take up those questions with respect to the Financing Corp. Now, we could call a recess to this meeting and call the Finance Corp meeting to order, take care of its business, conclude that meeting, and then reconvene and complete the business of this particular board.
Complexity. Shall we just we can do that right now and bang out the financial stuff and excuse Mike Salmon and let him go to bed.
And the
Or-
consultants.
And the consultants.
I'm for that.
I'm kind of for that, too. Does anybody have some really, okay. So we will take a recess from the regular board meeting,
Correct?
and then I will call to order our finance.
May I just add one
Yes,
kind of additional detail? We have two items that are on the regular board agenda and on the Finance Corp. So we also have the audited review. So my recommendation to make it not get too confusing of going back in and out of different board meetings would be, if you have specific questions from the Finance Corp, perhaps we do the audited review item first and then go into that recess to address both those items. That's just my recommendation in terms of managing some of the confusion.
okay. I feel like I don't have in front of me, I think I'm missing a little bit of information. Maybe the packet was updated and I didn't check it out because I didn't have the financial core meeting. So I'm a little bit in the wrong spot, perhaps.
Is this what you need?
It should be in there.
It's the agenda for the Finance Corporation
Oh,
meeting.
okay. That probably is, and where that inserted into my regular meeting. So the question is,
It's after page 646
Yeah,
of
right.
the regular packet.
Wait a minute, what was that?
thank you.
So Brian's recommending just sneak it in after 11, before 12, the Finance
Okay,
Corp.
so let's do 11 first, then we'll take a recess, we'll open up Financial Corp, and then we'll close that down, and we'll go back to our regular meeting.
I think
Our
that might
regular-
work a little smoother,
Okay,
yeah.
let's do that. So we're moving on to action item number 11, consideration of the audited financial report for fiscal year 2021. And hopefully we will be accepting the audited financial report for fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021. Okay, I think back to you, Mike.
Thank you, President Finn.
No, we're in a financial
Thank
meeting,
you.
right?
No, not quite yet, but we will be momentarily. We need different hats.
This is agenda item number 11, consideration of audited financial report for fiscal year 2021 for the Truckee Donner Public Utility District. We have with us Moss Adams of Keith Simovic and Jared Brownstone, and I will turn it over to them. I will move the slides along at your suggestion. You're both on mute.
Perfect, thanks, Mike, and we'll go ahead and get started. I don't know if I see the presentation up there quite yet. I don't know if everyone else can see that or not, but I'm not seeing it come up.
We do see it, I believe.
Okay, perfect. Well, in that case, if everyone else can see it, then I'll go ahead and move things forward. Thanks for having us here, members of the board. Always nice to be here at this point in time because this means the audit is completed. So lots of good news to share based on that. And I want to say too, I think this might be a record, just at least in recent memory, for finalizing the audit and issuing the financial statements. So I want to say in the past, it's been a couple weeks later. So this sets you up nicely, and we worked with the finance team very closely to get everything completed in time for basically your last agenda item and having everything teed up perfectly for the potential for a bond issuance. So that worked out great, and just want to say thanks to the entire team there at the district that had a hand in this, and to issue quite a bit earlier when you think of the whole process compared to previous years. So very good news there. All right, so go ahead and move forward to the next slide.
Keith, what slide are you seeing?
I'm seeing just a file folder that says downloads right now. I don't know if everyone else is seeing that or if it's just me.
We see that on one screen, and on the other, we see your dedicated team.
So
I'm gonna reset here, guys.
Sure.
to simplify the process here, Mike, I can control the slides from inside the boardroom. If you and our team just want to let me know when to change slides, I will.
That's perfect. Yeah, I mean, we're just going into the second slide, which is just a quick recap of our team, or at least the core of our team. myself, which you already got the introduction from Mike, as well as this is Jared. And then Julie Desimoni served as the concurring review partner on this engagement. That's our quality control reviewer, someone that's not otherwise involved with the engagement, although she used to be several years ago until I transitioned into that role as partner engagement reviewer several years back. But she comes in to review certain key documents, making sure that we're following all of our professional standards and that your final audited financial statements include all the pieces that the governmental accounting standards require as well. And also making sure that you can check those additional boxes because you issue what's known as an annual comprehensive financial report. You might remember from last year, that being the first year the district has issued a full annual comprehensive financial report, or an ACFR, I think is the easiest way that we can pronounce that acronym. And that is something that goes above and beyond kind of the minimum requirements that the GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards, require. And you actually submit that to the Government Finance Officers Association, the GFOA, for consideration for an additional award, a certificate of achievement in excellence in financial reporting. So we'll talk about that as well here in the next slide. So go ahead and advance to the next one. So this is just a quick reminder of what you've hired us to do and what you can expect to receive out of this process in terms of deliverables from us, right? So box number 1 is probably the one that you're most familiar with. This is our report that we issue over the fairness and accuracy of the financial statements of the district. Of course, that includes the electric and water utilities as well as the component units for the community facilities districts as well. So through all the work that we do, through all of the testing to look back to invoices, contracts and agreements, and pulling detailed transactions to see is there actual evidence and support to show that what was recorded and what's presented in your financial statements is fair and accurate. And through all of those procedures that we perform, at the end of the day, we are able to gain enough evidence to say whether we believe the financial statements are free of material misstatement. So that's very good news, and that's exactly what you're going to want to receive out of this process and any third party. And of course, when you're issuing debt as well, want to see that 1, you've gotten an audit done, and 2, that you get a clean audit opinion as well. Box number 2, just a little bit on top of that, on top of the detailed testing that we do, again, we have to make sure that those financial statements include all of the different pieces. It's presented in a certain specific way that the GASB requires, and that you have all the disclosures in there and the additional requirements that the GFOA puts forth in there. Very good news, and you may already be aware, but the district received its first award for its submission last year for that certificate of achievement in excellence in financial reporting. So that's actually included in your ACFR for this year. You always include the award for the prior year. So that's very, very good news. Again, your staff's going above and beyond for the first time this past year, and then again this year, to submit that set of financial statements for that prestigious award. So that's very good news. And I know your staff is working to submit that for the award again this next year as well. So good news there. And then box number 3, we also issue what's called a communication to those charged with governance. I wish they would change the terminology used there because it's just a mouthful, but it's just a separate letter that our professional standards require to say certain things about how the audit went. Just give you a little bit more flavor for the process that we went through, and if we found any issues during the process, and if there's any concerns that came up, right? Do we have any recommendations? Do we have best practices? Were there audit adjustments? And we'll talk about what's included in that letter for this year in just a minute. So those are the things you can expect to receive. Go ahead and advance to the next slide. And I think at this one, I'm going to pass it along to Jared. He's just going to give you a quick highlight here of kind of the process we go through to kind of get to this point where you get this final audit opinion, this paper that says, hey, we believe the financial statements are free of material misstatement. But what are some of those procedures that we go through? Jared, do you want to dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Keith. So yeah, the 3 main pillars of our audit process include our internal control walkthroughs surrounding financial close and reporting cycles around information technology, as well as revenue and billing control testing. In terms of our testing of account balances, we do analytical procedures primarily over revenue and expense accounts. We look at trends in market comparisons to set expectations, and then we evaluate any variances between those expectations and account balances. And then we also perform substantive procedures, including confirming account balances. We vouch supporting documentation to specific transactions that we test. We obtain representations from attorneys and management, and then we also obtain any other objective audit evidence needed to substantiate account balances. And we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. In terms of reports and opinions, so these are the final reports that Keith mentioned earlier. On the financial statements, we will be issuing an unmodified, also known as a clean opinion, and on our communication to those charged with governance, we have noted no material weaknesses. Both of these are best case scenarios in terms of our reporting to the board and are indicative of, strong tone at the top, as well as strong efforts by Mike and Melanie and their team. And then if you want to go to the next slide here. There it is. For our required communications, these are going to be included in that letter to those charged with governance. We don't need to run through every single one of these, but a couple items to highlight here. For significant accounting policies, there were no impacts for new accounting standards adopted during the current year. And then we have some audit adjustments and audit observations, which we can talk through in the next couple slides. In terms of audit adjustments, we did not note any material audit adjustments this year. We did have one past adjustment related to payroll taxes. Oh, sorry. Looks like we skip ahead here. Can we go back to that audit adjustments slide? Thank you. So as I noted, no material audit adjustments identified this year. We did have one past adjustment for payroll taxes, which were incurred as of December 31st, 2021, but were not recorded until January 2022. So we have approximately $91,000 adjustment to record that in the 2021 fiscal year end, which management passed on. We concluded that this amount is immaterial to the financials and doesn't impact our audit opinion in any way. And then in terms of our internal control recommendations, we have a couple best practice recommendations. The first one is related to changes to existing vendors. So we noted that management has a process for reviewing and have a documented review of any new vendors added to the master vendor file, but changes made to those vendors once in there aren't necessarily recorded. And then we noted there was not a documented periodic review of user access within the NISC system. And then we also have a best practice recommendation to review the SOC 1 report primarily around the NISC system.
Yeah, and as you can see on here, I mean, all these we have classified as best practices. In some cases, we're seeing that and hearing that these things are happening. It's just a matter of documenting those and having kind of that audit trail so we can verify that they're happening, but we're able to kind of talk through the process that's happening now and get a feel for the control that's happening. It's just a matter of having that audit trail going forward as a best practice there. And that's why we didn't, decide to classify these as anything more significant in terms of the internal control or level of severity of internal control finding that we can note here. So good news overall. You always want to see kind of some of these little things that you can continue to tweak and adopt more of these best practices as you go forward. But this is kind of what you would hope to receive. No big red flags, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies. So very good news there. And our experience in the past has always been that as we have these items or more significant items, that they're addressed very quickly by your team there.
And Keith, didn't we have work orders, timely closing of work orders on here for many years? And so what's not on this page is that statement. So we've made, Melanie and the team in work orders has made significant strides in the work order process. So what's not on there is important too.
That's a really good point, Mike. We did, I can verify that we did have recommendations related to work orders and closing those more timely so that you can start that depreciation process and make sure you have captured all those costs in a timely manner. And that had been something that we had for a number of years. So very good to see that that's not on there this year. All right, briefly, just a heads up, we're talking to all of the governing bodies on our clients this year about a kind of major new accounting standard that's going to be in play this next year. We won't go into too much depth here, but just to give everyone kind of a heads up as to the impact this will have, because it's having a broad-based impact on a lot of our governmental clients. So the new standard is GASB 87. It's the new leasing standard, where it's really changing how leases are recorded and reflected in your financial statements from how they are today. Whereas today, a lot of leases, most of them I would say, fall into a category called operating leases, where you expense, if you're a lessee, you're leasing property or a building or equipment or vehicles from a third party, you would expense those payments as you make them. And so there's only impact on your financial or on your income statement. There's no items recorded on your balance sheet. And going forward, this will change quite a bit, as most leases will be recorded on day one of the lease as an asset on your books that you depreciate as if you own that asset, and a related liability as if you took out debt to finance that asset. So you're actually going to have an impact on your balance sheet when you enter into a lease on day one. So a little bit different than what you'd see today. So this is something we just want to bring up in case the district continues to enter into more and more leasing activity in the future. Just good to be aware of how that will be presented, how that will look on your financial statements, because it is different than what occurs today. So just a heads up on that piece. We don't see a ton of leasing activity running through your financial statements today, so we don't anticipate a significant impact, but we're continuing to work with Mike, Melanie, and the team there at the district to implement this one for next year. All right. Other than that, happy to open up for any questions. And again, just a big thank you to everyone involved in this. I know finance does the heavy lifting, and there's a big thank you there, but we talked to a lot of different departments and folks throughout the engagements, as we do every year, because the internal controls that you have in place, the policies and procedures that are followed, that filters down into many different departments and folks that we talk to, from project management, IT, payroll, HR, all kinds of different folks. So just a big thank you there. All right, any questions?
Right on. Thank you so much for that presentation. Lots of good news there. First, I am going to open it up for public comment. Is there any, I don't see any public comment in person. Are there any internet comments on this item?
No, Madam President.
Okay, in which case we will bring it back to our directors. Do we have any director comments regarding this presentation? We'll start at the far end.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the auditor, as well as Mike and Melanie and their team, for the nice audit that you got, and congratulations on your award that you got. That is really good. I guess it was from 2020 financials that they received the award, so I thought that was great to hear that they won that award. And as a fellow auditor, I was an auditor in my past life, that can be a excruciating and very time-consuming thing to do a full audit. So I just wanted to thank them and appreciate what they've done.
Thank you, Director Harris. Director Laliotis?
Very similar comments. Yes, thanks to Mike and his staff, and Julie and Keith and their staff on continuing to do such a great job. And I want to thank Mike for bringing that item up regarding work orders, because I'm not sure I can remember an audit where that was not brought up. So,
Right.
this is a milestone. So, thank you.
Thank you, Director Laliotis. Director Bender?
Yes, excellent work, thank you, and really great news, so happy to approve this.
Thank you, Director Bender. Director Aguirre?
That's about right. It was a good comment that they made, that everything was copacetic and everything was up and up and up. And I think that was great. And thank you for the good work, and that's about it. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Aguirre. And I echo all of those comments. I am very grateful to people who enjoy this sort of work. I owe you a lot. And yeah, the work orders, it's the same thing in my memory. That's always been a little bit of a bugbear, so I'm happy that that is being put to bed. And I look forward to Mike explaining to us about leases in the future. So thank you all very much for your hard work and your dedication, and it really shows. We appreciate it. And I think that's it. I think we can entertain a motion on this item.
I'll move to accept the audited financial report for fiscal year ending December 31, 2021.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Thank you. Director Aguirre?
Yes.
Director Laliotis?
Yes.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Vice President Bender?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I think this brings us to a recess for this regular meeting. We are going to recess there. And we are just going to move right along into opening our Finance Corporation meeting. So boom, I'm calling that to order, the Finance Corporation meeting of the TDPUD Finance Corp. There we go. Call to order. I guess we need to do another roll call? No, we already did it. Yes, we do. No, I'm getting the thumbs up from Council Gross there. So let's have a roll call
Director Aguirre.
This is on what?
for the Finance Corp.
Yeah, I said yes, I think.
Oh, good, okay.
Yeah.
Director Laliotis.
Here.
Director Harris. Here. Vice President Bender.
Here.
President Finn.
Here.
Thank you.
And we are going to defer the pledge. Do we have any changes to our Financial Corp agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment on the Financial Corp meeting?
No, Madam President.
Thank you very much.
Two actions.
So that brings us right to our actions. Number 6, accept the 2021 Annual Disclosure Report and the 2021 Audited Financial Statements for the 2015 Certificate of Participation Continuing Disclosure Requirements. So, do we have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. Do we have to entertain a motion? Is this, we're okay?
Public
Anybody?
input?
Pardon me?
Did you do public input or did I
I
miss that?
didn't know.
Oh,
Do we
okay.
have any public input on this item?
No, Madam President.
Thank you.
Are you on 12?
I am on number 6 on the Financial Corporation meeting.
We're back on there?
I know, it is one of those nights.
I'll move staff's recommendation of item 6, accept the 2021 annual disclosure report, et cetera.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Thank you. Director Aguirre.
Yes.
Director Bender.
Yes.
Director Laliotis.
Yes.
Director Harris. Yes. And President Finn.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item number 7 on the Financial Corp meeting, consideration to adopt Resolution 2022-01. This item concerns the legal instruments associated with public debt financing for the electric utility. Do we have any public comment on item number 7? I see none.
No, Madam President.
Thank you. Do you have any director comments or questions? Nope, I think we covered this pretty good. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Thank
Item
you.
number 7.
Do we have
Consideration.
a second?
Second.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Aguirre.
Yes.
Director Laliotis.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Vice President Bender.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Thank you.
And for our final item under the Finance Corp, consideration to adopt Resolution 2022-02. This item concerns the legal instruments associated with public debt financing for the water utility. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Madam
I
President.
see none. Seeing none, do we have any directors' questions or comments? No, very good. Do we have a motion?
So move for Resolution 2022-02.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Thank you, Director Lara.
Second.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Director Aguirre.
Yes.
Director Laliotis.
Yes.
Director Harris.
Yes.
Vice President Bender.
Yes.
President Finn.
Yes.
Thank you.
And on that note, we are going to adjourn the Finance Corp meeting. We are closing it up. It is 7:06. Boom.
Adjourned.
We're adjourned, and we're going to move back into our regular meeting. We're reopening it. There. I get to bang the gavel a lot tonight. Very exciting. Okay, back in regular session.
Guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate your presence. All right. And thank you, all my finance people. Mike, if you're still out there in the ether somewhere, thank you very much for your presentations and your help. And I am, here we go. Action item number 12. Consideration of the Climate Transformation Alliance Charter. Adopt Resolution 2022-14, endorsing the Climate Transformation Alliance Charter. So this particular item is my item. So there's not a staff presentation associated with it. We included the charter and the strategic plan in our materials this month. Unfortunately, it was after 600 pages or so of financial and bond issues, but what we're asking for tonight is just endorsement of our charter and to move forward as a participating founding member in this new collaboration that we have spent about a year creating. And what the purpose of it is to align our local districts and governments, our efforts and our policies and our projects and our procedures to help regionally reduce our greenhouse gases. So, beginning with aligning our policies, sharing what each of our districts is doing, and hopefully, again, aligning them so that we're sort of doing the same things on the same timeframes and we have agreement on what is effective. And then combining our forces to hopefully draw more financing to the region, and then actually boots on the ground, creating projects that will markedly reduce our greenhouse gas emissions on as fast a schedule as possible, seeing as the state continues to speed up all of those timelines, and we are answerable. So I included those information so you guys could ask me questions of if you have any or comments, and then I'm going to ask you for your endorsement. And I guess I should open it up for public comment first. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Madam President.
And I see none here in person, so that brings us back to the directors. Does anybody have any questions or anything? Now's your chance.
Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
I was wondering if you could kind of fill us, is this something that you just went home and put together yourself, or did you have a committee? Did you have a
No,
group of
absolutely not.
friends, or?
This started as a conversation between myself and, at the time, Mayor Klovstad, and we were discussing how the PUD and the town could help the school district electrify their school buses. So that was the genesis of this, ultimately, at this point, alliance. So that conversation led us to reach out to David Diamond at the airport. He was really interested in the same, because, everybody always thinks of the airport because they've got a lot of money, right? So, and their transportation, and they have a mandate to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. They fly jets. So this fell under, they could do this. This is something they could actually help with. And then we brought in Steve Frisch and the Sierra Business Council because he's really the expert in our region on these issues. So he's the one, and the SBC, that really, with all of our input, meaning the airport district, the PUD, and this wasn't just elected members, it was also staff members of all of these districts, had input into the charter and the strategic plan. And again, the original thought was we can bring all of the stakeholders together, and we could hear ideas for greenhouse gas emission reductions, kind of like Shark Tank. That's what David Diamond, he was like, we could do a Shark Tank, and people could come in and pitch their ideas at us, and we can say, yes, some of us are interested in this, some of us are interested in that, some are not interested at all, and we can pool projects together and sort of divvy them up, and whatever seems to be a good fit for various districts, because obviously not everything is going to work for all the districts. We're power and water. We all have fleets. That is something that everybody overlaps on. But we are interested in clean power. We are interested in moving our water around with less greenhouse gas emissions. So the airport is interested in just burnishing their reputation in the community and increasing their sort of reducing their impacts on this community, because at the moment jets are they're pretty dirty. They're pretty dirty. So they have a large footprint for the size of their district. Anyhow, so yeah, it wasn't just me and Anna coming up with a strategic plan. It's been a year-long effort, meetings fairly often, at least once a month, sometimes more often than that. At this stage that we are at right now is we are recruiting other districts to join us. So we want them in the room, and not just districts, we also, nonprofits, of course, I forgot to include the Communities Foundation. Stacy and the Community Foundation, they are our fiscal sponsors. So they're handling the money flows, because that's what they do the best, is money has to come in and money has to go out. It's going to come in from various sources, including members, including donors, and it's going to go out to various sources, including members, probably not donors, but to businesses who, have a plan to help. So it's fairly complex at the moment, but things are complex. It's a complex world we live in. So does that answer that question?
Yeah, so how often do you, Anna and Dave Diamond, how often do the three of you guys meet on this?
Well, we have been meeting, it hasn't been just the three of us. All of these meetings it's been me, Anna. David actually has stepped back, and Kat Wolf took his place for a little while. And also staff members. So Brian has been to these meetings. Stephen Poncelet has been to these meetings. Stephen Keats has been to these meetings. Kevin Smith, the head of the airport, has been at these meetings. Jen Calloway has been at these meetings. Lots of town staff has been at these meetings. So everybody is doing their part to help us sort of craft a system that's going to work, a framework that's going to work. So, step by step, the next step becomes apparent. So, and we've been meeting about once a month, as I'm going to say, on average through the year. Sometimes we have things we go home with our homework assignments and we come back in like 2 or 3 weeks a little faster, and then again, some months we missed altogether. So Christmas comes to mind. So, yeah, but pretty consistently, we've had a fair chunk of meetings.
Good.
Well, this is a pretty broad
It is.
situation. Has the school district done anything about the suggestion, or are they talking about it?
We are recruiting them now. We are
Okay. So-
starting those conversations with the school district, and the hospital district are kind of top of mind for us.
Yeah, but I meant with the school buses.
They have discussed it, yes. That's how, the
Yeah,
original
well,
yeah. So
But getting back to the airport, I know they were one of our partners.
Mm-hmm.
And how are they gonna change the airplanes?
that
They
is
fly in and they fly
not
out.
a discussion that we've had yet. Yeah, we'll wait for somebody to pitch us on.
That's why I say it's a pretty broad
renewable
situation.
gas. It is a pretty broad situation, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty broad problem. And in the strategic plan, we talk about the various types of solutions. We've talked about everything from, local renewable power generation, something that the PUD has been interested in, to, wetlands restoration, which sinks greenhouse gases. So there's all sorts of different ways to tackle this problem. And I think we're going to need to use
Yeah.
a broad array of those tools.
Well, I know it's committee work and
Yeah,
getting
it's a
together.
lot. Well, and that's
But,
what
most of
collaboration is
our
important.
Green gases are coming from China.
Well, we can't do anything about China. We can only do ourselves.
Can't do anything about China. This is what puts it in a broader situation.
But we can do what we can do.
Yeah,
So that's where I'm coming from.
yeah, right, locally.
Well, you can see the passion that you have for this, and it sounds like you have a lot of good players in on it, so that's all the questions I have, but, congratulations for finally starting to move
Getting
it
it.
forward.
Thank you, that's how we feel too. That's slogging forward, little by little. Do we have any other questions or comments that I can field? How do you guys, taking your pulse here?
No, I same comments, pretty much. This is a good document, a lot of goals and objectives.
Yes.
I know you guys are in early stages, and I appreciate the organization so far, because I think it is doing a good job of trying to identify sort of very logical steps. Time will tell how far each one, how long each one will take. We appreciate the energy and the passion and trying to collaborate with other community members, other organizations, other government organizations in this community to try and keep this goal or these broader goals of greenhouse gas emissions and reductions sort of at the top of the conversation. So, thank you.
Thank you. And one thing I did want to point out is this is not a monetary ask of any point tonight. That will be a separate item to come before the board as we develop our financial mechanisms, which we don't have right now fleshed out. But that's not what tonight is about. It's simply endorsing the charter. So, okay.
I'll move to adopt resolution number 2022-14.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam
Yes.
May I just point out one nit, if I may?
You may.
Under the governance arrangements on page 582 of the meeting packet, the governing council members, we should consider changing Truckee Donner Public Utilities to Public Utility District.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What was that page?
582 of the meeting packet.
Thank you.
They're changing what?
Just our name, just to get our name correct, the district's name.
It's not going to be utilities,
No, utility,
District.
yes.
even if we have two utilities?
Yes, it's right there above Director Bender's head.
Right.
So,
That's what I was going to say.
that's why I gotta go that
We're going
way.
to do that.
So I'll adjust my motion to include
Changes as
that-
per Council Gross.
Thank you.
Do we have a second? We had a second. Director Harris seconded. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Madam President, does that second include the change that Vice President Bender made?
Yes, the second includes that change.
Thank you. Director Aguero?
Yes.
Director Laliotis?
Yes.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Vice President Bender?
Yes.
President Finn?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. Okay, and that brings us to workshop item number 13, the 2020 Water Utility Consumer Confidence Reports. We get to receive information and provide feedback.
Madam President, thank you for the opportunity to present the Consumer Confidence Report for both the main system, which would be the Truckee Donner Public Utility District, and the Hirschdale. So as I talk about them, we're talking about both synonymously. So thank you.
Thank you.
Just to start off, I'm going to give a little bit of a background. I know you guys see this every single year, so I'm going to give a little bit of background of what is consumer confidence and kind of why it's coming before you. First off, this goes back to, in 1996, the Safe Drinking Water Act. It requires that everybody receives a copy of the Consumer Confidence Report. And it goes over these four basic constituents, that of the source water, the list of detected contaminants, brief description of contaminant sources and associated health risk. Now, in the compliance with the regulatory agencies. This has changed a little bit in the recent past. So in the past, you used to actually get your little postcard or you'd get your little flyer, and you guys remember seeing those and kind of seeing all those tests and going through it and going, wow, what is all this? And you always heard those questions about that. So in 2012, this changed a little bit. And what this came out with is that it just has to be available on your website with a one-click option. So meaning it goes out in the bills, and it would tell the people that where they can see this with a one-click option. So we're planning on releasing this to the State Water Resource Control Board as of July 1st. So this is kind of coming to you tonight to go over some of the different aspects of it and make sure that you guys are okay prior to us releasing it. So this State Water Resource Control Board dictates how we prepare these. And so this is something that as we're going through this, we have different rules that we have to comply with. The first was there was no violations or that we exceeded any of the maximum contaminant levels. We have very good water here. That is one thing that we're very, very fortunate to have. With the basin that we have, it provides very good, safe potable water. Again, this will be made available. It'll go out in a June notice, or June bills, excuse me, and will be put on the website. So printed copies will also be available because not everybody has computers, not everybody has that. So that will be made available there in the office. Now, one of the questions that we hear almost every year is, well, I noticed some of these are from 2019, or I noticed some of these are from 2020, some of the different tests. Not every constituent is tested every year. This is for a reason. The aquifer that we get the water from is a deep aquifer. The quality doesn't change all that rapidly. So if you have an established pattern, and we have this established years and year out of this quality water that we've been talking about, you're not going to see a lot of variance through that. So there are certain things that are called a period, would be like 3 years that you have for testing, and we're able to not have to test every constituent every single year, which obviously would get very expensive. So it's one of the things that is very fortunate because of what we have here. The next is the protocol of how this testing is done. We have certified, every test is taken by a certified operator. Every test that is performed by a certified lab. So this isn't just a willy-nilly, we're kind of doing the old eye exam, nothing of that nature. This is absolutely a very heavily regulated area. Some of you that are on next door might have heard about some of the arsenic things that went on, I'm going to say about 5-6 weeks ago. Excuse me. That was something that was very interesting to hear, and I applaud the people for taking the sample. However, this is a highly, highly regulated area. If there's one thing California has done well, is making sure that everything is regulated to the nth degree, especially when it comes to water quality. So I do applaud them for doing it. However, we have tested this, we have since tested this, and our water is absolutely impeccable. This is one of the things that makes me so happy to be working here. Every single sample goes to that certified lab, like I said, so therefore we have to go back to, we know that we're doing the right job, and we know that everything is going well. Any cost that would be associated with this, or any physical impact that would be associated with this, is obviously is included in the normal budget and the normal day-to-day operating. One of the things that is nice about that change that happened in 2012, it's a major cost savings to not have to send out one of these leaflets to every single person. So that's a good thing and a step in the right direction for us. So our recommendation is, if there's any questions about the CCR, we kind of started with the easy one tonight. We're going to get to the more complex one here next, but with regards to the CCR, there was, again, no major contaminants or no MCLs were exceeded, or maximum contaminant levels exceeded, and it was a very good, clean, nice report. Thank you for your time, Madam President.
Hirschfield's come out really good, huh?
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, it absolutely did. One of the things that was nice is Hirsch still kind of gets the benefit of being lumped in with the larger system, so it gets a very good eye kept over it, so to say, because of the operators.
Yeah, because we had trouble with the Hirschdale well when we first put it in.
And there are plans to loop that system in the future. So different item, totally. Not dealing with the community.
Okay.
Yeah, but there are plans, and with the treatment, it is doing just fine. So
Good deal.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Yes. Oh,
Very
sorry.
good. No, that's me. That's on me. It's a workshop item, so I
No
don't
action
necessarily,
needed.
yeah, no action needed, no need for public comment. Do we have any questions or comments, though?
I appreciate this, the presentation and the information that's in here. I did notice that I'm not proficient in Spanish, but there is a line in there that is in Spanish, so I'm assuming that you do provide this information for our Hispanic, Spanish-speaking groups?
Director Harris, yeah, and I myself am not proficient in Spanish either, so I have to take the word of the people that prepared it that said it is done correctly.
Oh, good. Well, I think we have somebody on staff who's certified.
Oh, absolutely,
Which is helpful. So, but thank you very much.
No problem.
Appreciate it.
Just one clarification on that. The Spanish-speaking component, we use an app, or we can provide it in a printed document in that format.
Excellent.
The only thing I'd like to say is, This is a good and timely report. I haven't heard one this for a long, long time on the water, especially from the lab and side of it. And I'm real glad to hear what I heard tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
thank you. Yeah, I think that's thanks all around. Always, same thing, happy to be here.
I just had one, was just curiosity, because I see the two reports, but I only see one, the analytical table. I only see one in the board packet for Hirschdale. I didn't see the data for the main system. Unless they're commingled on the same table, but I didn't think that was the case in the past.
I believe they're actually two separate documents, and so if it is not there, that was an omission on my behalf, and we'll make sure that, obviously, the ones that go to the state would be
I hope
the
so.
separate, yeah, and the ones made available online would be.
Cool. And yeah, just, I want to reiterate your discussion about certified labs, and that is a requirement by the state that, and they have what they call the Environmental Lab Accreditation Program, which the state of California requires, which actually the state administers, and then requires all of our samples to be run through a ELAP certified laboratory. So just to further add what you stated, it is a heavily regulated, even starting at the lab itself, to make sure that these results have, a strong background in QA/QC, so that we're confident and the consumers can be confident that the results that we're presenting are accurate. So just want to make that point. And then most likely the Spanish statement is straight out of the state's guidance book. So it's word for word. So if they messed up, then we may have messed up. But in the end, that's, a lot of this stuff is canned language from the state guidance document. So thank you, and thanks for the staff for, collecting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of samples every month to make sure that our drinking water is safe, so.
I'll definitely pass that on to the staff, because I'm not the guy collecting the samples, so definitely pass that on to them.
Very good. All right, well, thank you very much. I think that we all agree that we're grateful to be in a place that has really good water, and let's keep it that way. And that brings us to workshop item number 14, the more complicated one, the Drought and Executive Order N722. Lay it on us. What are we looking at?
Absolutely. Absolutely, and thank you again, Madam President. I meant to say my name at the very beginning, just because I know I'm brand new around here. So my name is Chad Reed. Please interrupt me as we go through this. There's going to be several different components of this. We're going to kind of shift gears a few different times as we go throughout this report. So please just hold on just a second. What did you mean by this or something? I have no problem with it, stopping midterm. So please go from there. Obviously, as we know, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And as we start with this, we start with an image taken from roughly the same area. And as we look at this, we know one thing, and this is to no shock to anyone in this room, we're in a drought in this state. We're in a very severe drought as we go throughout the state. And the picture kind of dictates this. So in order to kind of bring this home, I wanted to go to a range station that is much closer. This is in the Truckee Ranger Station. So this is the past 33 years of rain data that you see here. If we start with this, we'd say that 13 years, and if I have the black line that we're kind of seeing there in the middle of the screen, right here, that would be the normal line. And then if you go below it, it would be below normal, and then dry, that's what that perforated line. And then the opposite would be that of above normal and wet, obviously. So if we take that normal line and we go across there for the past 33 years, we see 13 of those 33 years were above normal. That's great. What's concerning is the 19 that are below. And if we draw a little bit, if we drill into this data just a little bit more and just look at 2000 forward, 14 of those 19 events happened there. But let's go even to the next step and let's look at the last 2 years. The last 2 years are what is kind of kicks us off and gets us into the event that we have with this executive order. So the last year being the driest year that we have of those 33 years. What happened though is we also kicked off this year with, again, appearing to be very dry. So now you're looking at potentially 3 years in a row of that of drought, and the governor's obviously going to have to react to something of this nature. So he issues an executive order, N-7-22, and there's a few major components that come out of this executive order. One, that the urban water suppliers, we need to go to level 2 of our water shortage contingency plan if you have one. We do, so I'm going to ignore all the lines in there that say about if you don't have one. We have one. You guys have done a great job. You're prepared for this event. There's a game plan that we need to stick to, basically, at this point. Second, he calls out that that we need to prevent unreasonable use of water. There is a section that is actually called out in this in the Water Code of 995 that actually dictates what that is. However, because you have the water shortage contingency plan, it's already called out there also. So you don't have to go back to the 995. You get to stay inside your document that you guys have prepared. The third being is the non-functional turf. This was kind of my favorite line item as we went through this. You know, they define what is non-functional turf and everything is basically any turf that is out there that you're not using for sports or things of that nature, it's out. It shouldn't be using potable water on it. And we need to limit our irrigation. Now, if you didn't have a water shortage contingency plan, and I applaud you again, you'd be down to 2 days a week, is what this would call for. Because you have this, you can go to every other day watering. So that would be what is included in this. Now, he directed the State Water Resource Control Board to issue a document on this, or issue a memo on this. So the State Water Resource Board has issued 2 different memos, and I'm going to get back to that, so we're going to hit pause on that conversation. Let's go to the water shortage contingency plan for a second. So the water shortage contingency plan has basically 3 items that we need to do. The every other day watering, which you're going to comply with, and it has that you shouldn't be using potable water for hardscapes, your sidewalks, roads, for washing things down, with one exception, and that's if you're recoating or resealing, you're able to use your potable water there, per your water shortage contingency plan. Now, the other is that you need to have your hose, your automatic shut-off on your hose. And this, I only hold this up because this was handed to me on my first day as part of my little gift packet. You guys are doing a great job with this. We probably need to go order several more cases of these because this is what's going to be one of the big things that we're going to be seeing. Car washing, anything outside, you have to have one of these on in order to be compliant with the water shortage contingency plan. So that was my little prop here. But we also have penalties and fines that can be associated with this. Now, obviously, we don't have penal powers, and so we would push this back over to the city, who does have sworn peace officers and things of that nature to take care of this. We would recognize the problem and push it over. But there's an enforcement component on this also. So it is everybody's responsibility during this drought that we all have to do our part to conserve. I do want to kind of push one major thing that I've heard in the past when I was down south is, well, what if we don't conserve? And what if we don't do this? And we just say, forget it. I would imagine they're going to be bringing back the $10,000 a day fines that would be associated that would come to the district. So obviously we want to do our part. I just put this out there in case there's that one person that's going rogue and says, you know, heavens no, I'm not going. Well, we need to comply, and we all need to do our fair share when it comes down to this. So the first question that we would ask ourselves is, what should we do for our customers? How can we help them to get on board, so to say? What should be done? So one of the first things is we need to have a joint message. We need to make sure that our message is consistent and is very precise and very to the point. Second, we have the conservation garden. The conservation garden out there is a great job of showing different hardscapes, shows different plants, shows different ways to make something very beautiful with very low water consumption. Now, there needs to be some little upkeep in there, I get it, but it needs to happen. We're going to do that. We're going to do our best to make sure everything happens there. We do have rebates. We have the hose automatic shutoffs that we talked about. We have our shower timers in case you're curious about what's going on with regards to how long you're in the shower. We have all these different things that are there. But first and foremost, our messaging has to be uniformed. We have to get this out. Part of the requirement is that we go forth with this messaging. And it's important. It honestly is important. I do want to kind of shift gears one more time on you here. So we had the original edict or the executive order. We have our water shortage contingency plan. I'd like to take a second, though, and talk about our basin. The Martyrs Valley Groundwater Basin is a blessing, or is a huge benefit that we have. So why I stop there is because, yes, California is going through a major, major drought. I can show you a whole series of pictures like those first two that showed lakes full, lakes essentially empty. However, we are extremely fortunate to be here because we do not have that same shortage. Now, this isn't just me standing up here saying this. This has actually been shown through science over decades. And we're able to show this off of reports that aren't just from purveyors or just from people pumping. This is across the basin. People get together and we discuss this annually. Whether it originally could have been because of Sigma, but it's since become because we're responsible stewards of the basin. And that's what we need to be. So if we start off with this basin has been studied thoroughly. Second, if we take this safe yield, which is a roughly 22,000 acre foot, and we know what we've been pumping over last year, just a little over 7,600 acre foot, we would say that we're only using about a third of the safe yield. Just for quick clarification, the safe yield is how much water you can take from that basin before you start causing either degradation, you start causing some sort of adverse effect. So we're well under what we're allowed to take. Second, the part with the wells, this is extremely important in looking at any basin, is how fast do your wells recover. So when you start lowering them as you're pumping them during the summer months and you're really pumping them hard, because that's when our demand is, how fast do those wells recover? We see extremely fast recovery, which is indicative of an extremely healthy basin. And so the healthier the basin, the faster these wells recover. And they're recovering. The other part of this basin that is such a huge gift, so to say, is it is a major bowl, so to say. It's able to hold roughly 484,000, or we're going to just say 500,000 acre feet of water are stored there. So if we didn't get another drop of rain, not another drop of snow, no precipitation for roughly 65 years, we would be okay. Now you'd have to change your wells and you'd have to do things, don't get me wrong, but that is huge reliability. The reliability associated with that is just awesome. The other aspect of this is you have all the contributing sources of water around us, and roughly 500,000 acre foot of water come through this basin every single year. So even as you're using a little bit more from time to time, remember, everything comes in and goes out the Truckee River. And when that's true, if you have to use a little bit more, it's recharging that basin still. So you have like the perfect trifecta, so to say, of water coming in, water being stored here, and responsible users here in the basin, when they're only using that of about a little over 7,600 acre foot.
Hey, Chad, about 5 years ago, I think we went under the mandate of the state of California on conserving water and so on. And about that time is when I heard that our aquifer over here is good for the next 65 years. You just said the same thing.
Well, and they were right.
And we're 5 or 6 years later on
Yeah.
that.
So far, everything's still looking at that same period of time.
I'm still hearing the best things.
Yeah. Now, I don't sit here and say this just because, well, we're in the business of serving water. So of course I want to paint this picture as something great. This is a report that we're going to be bringing to you guys next month. This is a group of constituents throughout the entire basin that are not just pumpers. They're the watchdogs that are kind of watching over things. There's 15 different groups roughly that all come together and do this. There's also a third-party scientist that actually prepares the report. So again, it is so nice to see the level of science that goes into this, is people take this very serious. We are doing our best to be responsible stewards of the water. So again, I just want to show you the graphic that the customers are doing the right thing. We have, if we look at the gray bars on the far left of each one of those clusters going across, that would be the base year of the 2013. If we look at the orange-ish, or kind of the, yeah, we'll call it orange, lines that are there, you can see that they are substantially less than that of what was in 2013. What that means is that our customers have responded in a very good way. Now, it's crept up a little bit over the time, and it's kind of like all of us have kids to know that we all have to remind our kids to put away shoes more than once in their entire lifetime. At least I do. I've never been able to just tell them one directive and they follow it. Well, I think the same thing happens with customers. Sometimes they need a little bit of a reminder. This is the year that we're going to have to do some reminding to do our fair share. I'd like to talk a little bit about the physical impacts of a drought. What does it do? And I think the first thing that we have to acknowledge is the way that the rates were put together just a short while ago, and those were talked about earlier, was absolutely genius. Because there's two components to these rates. We have our fixed cost. Our fixed costs are going to be those things that doesn't matter if you sell 1 gallon of water, you have to keep paying. You have to keep paying people's salaries. You have to keep the wells and all the equipment up to date. You have to keep paying for the vehicles. You have to do all these different things. Well, Mr. Salmon and General Manager Wright and all those and yourselves were very smart in lumping such a huge fixed cost, or that of the meter rate is very large here. And that helps you during a drought time because that money is going to keep coming in. And those are the things that have to be done. So that fixed portion of the bill that goes in every single month helps you during this time. Now, was it planned exactly for that? I don't know, but because I wasn't here. But what I can tell you is you are very drought resilient on your money and of how that's going to happen. The variable cost, or the how much water you're actually pumping, is what is going to be affected the most. So if you cut by 20%, you're not going to cut your revenues. It's not a one-to-one with regards to what's going to happen there. The consumable cost would be that of what it takes to actually pump the water, the electricity and the disinfection chemicals, things of that nature. So it's an extremely fortunate system that you guys have established with regards to these rates, that we're able to go through this drought. We're able to continue to do these roughly $70 million over 10-year projects, capital improvement projects, and able to keep going forth. This is very fortuitous that the way things were done. One of the last things that I wanted to talk about before I start getting feedback and kind of go over what's going on here is we are ready for the drought because of the wise decisions that the board and staff have made. And that's a very nice position to be in. This next week, the beginning of the week, we're going to be sending out our self-certified letters to the state saying, we're ready. We have the water, everything is ready. We have a water shortage contingency plan. So therefore, we're ready to move on. We're ready to take this to the next level. I'd like any questions or any feedback you have for us, by all means. There's no action obviously required at this time. In June 1st, or the next meeting, we're going to be bringing the stage 2 to you. We have to have that completed and adopted prior to June 10th of this year. So it's going to be coming before you at that time. We'll ask you at that point to move to a stage 2 of the water shortage contingency plan. And we'll have the messaging, we'll have the full package, so to say, of how this will go forth and what we would recommend at that time. So any questions?
Any questions?
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good report.
As
Yeah.
you said, we're ready.
Ready.
Yes.
We're ready.
We're ready is right.
I love it.
But we don't want to tell them too much because then they'll want a little bit of it.
I agree with you. I agree with you. We'll tell them just enough to keep ourselves out of the hot water. So.
That's right, yeah.
So thank you all very much.
Right on. Thank you very much. That was
Thank you.
a
Yes,
nice,
thank you,
energetic
Chad.
presentation. We appreciate that. Okay, holy smokes. Did we,
Yes.
going all the way back?
President Finley, you might want to ask for a public comment on that presentation before we move on.
You know, Mr. Gross, though, it's a workshop item. My recollection is that we don't necessarily have public comment on workshop items.
I stand corrected. Thank you.
But it's never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing to ask for public comment.
President Finn is correct. The Brown Act requires public comment before any action is taken on any item. Workshops typically don't have any action associated with it, so we're typically not required to call for public comment on workshop items. It has been our historic practice and preference, though, to do so.
Yes.
And we have historically called for public comment on virtually every item on our agenda.
Yeah, and I do agree with that sentiment and practice. I got schooled
You were
at one
both
point.
right.
Yes, we were all right. But it is, I do, because it's an opportunity for the public to be educated just like we're being educated, and for them to ask questions about things that, like our water quality. So is there any public comment? I see none in person.
No, Madam President.
Very good. Thank you very much. And on that note, now that we've all learned a little more, we are going to move on to the minutes. I almost forgot about our routine business. So now we get to approve the minutes of the April 6th, 2022, and the May 4th, 2022 meetings. Do we have any public comment on the meetings?
No, Madam President.
Minutes of the meetings. Thank you. Do we have any director comments or changes on the minutes? Okay, I see shaking of heads. Okay, then do we have a motion?
So moved.
Very good. Do
Second.
we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Can we get a roll call vote?
Director Aguirre?
I abstained because I wasn't here.
Thank you. Director Laliotis?
Yes.
Director Harris?
Yes.
Vice President Bender?
Yes.
President Finn?
I have a question. I also was not here for one of those meetings, but I read the minutes and I watched the meeting.
Oh, good.
So is it appropriate to recuse myself, or can I approve them?
You may approve them.
I'm gonna approve them.
Attendance is not a condition of approving the minutes. The minutes are simply a record of what occurred at the meeting. And if you've satisfied yourself, either through watching or listening to a recording, or perhaps even listening to your fellow board members who were there to say, yes, this is an accurate record of the meeting, then you can go ahead and vote on the minutes in good conscience.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Then I will say yes.
Motion passed 4-1. Director Aguirre abstaining.
All right, and that brings us to the end of another fantastic regular meeting of the Truckee Public Utility District. We are,
What's this executive department, state of California executive order?
what?
Huh?
You're
It
trying
looks like a
to,
resolution.
it can't be. That's from the government, from the governor's office.
Oh,
to us.
okay,
So
so
we
we-
don't have to do anything,
Okay,
like
thank
right
you.
now. We received that. We're adjourned there. Before.